All right, my babies. So today's video is trying to convince you versus attempting an explanation. When did I have that? I have no idea. The first is always empty, and the second allows for personal choice. Probably was reading a book about, I don't know, man. There are interesting books, but then there are books that just repeat the same thing in different ways. Funny enough, most bestsellers are basically those books. Because whenever you're reading it, you're kind of like getting the idea. And the reason why you're getting the idea is because it kind of has been gone over many times before. Okay. Can you guys hear me? Yes, you can. So, trying to convince you versus attempting an explanation. So, I think convincing somebody is a worthless attempt at being productive because most of the convincing is always talking at the person. You're not talking to the person, you're talking at the person. And there is a form of repetition behind it. There's a form of there's a questioning, a form of what's on your mind so I can destroy it. There is no empathy involved, probably, because ultimately I'm selfishly trying to deliver what I'm thinking about so that you accept it as well. And attempting an explanation personalizes things a bit, because ultimately what I'm doing is sharing my thoughts and awaiting yours on whatever particular subject we're trying to kind of go over it. The context of convincing somebody is basically a mental shift or a mind change. Well, yes, attempting an explanation is more of a mental shift. We're trying to convince somebody is more of a mind change. I'm going to change your mind, and that's me convincing. I'm going to attempt to shift the processes of your mind is more of an explanation kind of thing. But here, you look at it. I highlighted trying and attempting because I don't think you can succeed in attempting to convince somebody. You might succeed temporarily, but ultimately you're always going to get to failed attempts. So subconsciously, I am correlating trying and convincing to the same status of failure. Because when you're trying to do something, you're doing everything but it. You're in the act of trying. But an attempt has an actual closed loop because you attempt it once, which attempt and do are practically the same thing, right? Attempting something versus trying something. See, that doesn't work because when you're attempting something, do is an action that it's implied. But trying something is basically putting something on, or trying to do something is kind of like when it comes to like, for example, the context of a shirt or a phone, like holding onto a phone. Holding on is an action. Trying to hold on to a phone is basically everything but holding on to it. So trying a phone kind of implies that I'm using it, right? Like I'm using what the phone produces. It is less, what's the word I'm looking for? It's the first time I look at trying like this way. So trying to convince you is basically me arrogantly thinking I have a certain power that allows me to change your mind. Whilst attempting, there's a certain humility because there's the expectation of failure. Again, that's all in my head. When you're trying to do something, that's enough. When you're attempting, everyone waits for you to finish. What am I thinking about right now? So it's clear to my head that convincing has an imposition behind it, whilst an explanation is I'm gonna choose a word different than personal because when you're is relatable. So it's convincing has imposition towards it, but explanation has relation towards it. Because the word relatable has a relation to it. I can relate to that. I have a relationship with something similar, right? So we're meeting somewhere in between. Whilst convincing is kind of like removing what's already there and placing something else inside of it. And we're kind of like having this conversation around like a mental thought, a concept, something that we're discussing. So convincing versus attempting. And it's funny because the first is always empty. It's when you're attempting to convince somebody with something, and if it succeeds, the fact that it's temporary. And I used to say that, well, I mean, like maybe this train of thought started when I was working in my restaurants. Because we do trainings, and basically the day will end beautifully, but they will return to their routines, their houses, the way they used to live before, which before the training, that's what conditioned them. And so ultimately, my training either has to condition people in a certain direction, which is a whole lot of effort and wasted energy, in all honesty, because like it removes the individual from the equation, or creating some form of relatability with them. And I realized I failed all the fucking time, by the way. It's like 2 hours of training, 3 hours of training, which is not enough because you kind of need a lot more time for something to stick. But we're forcing it. That's how it always felt. It's like they're training for something, they're excited, but like by the time they leave the training grounds, they already have forgotten like 80% of what they kind of learned. Because they all fall into the nuances, right? Like it's all connected. It's a pattern. It's not you're learning one thing and going from it. It's a pattern that you're applying. So I like how I'm reflecting on it right now. Anyways, so the concept behind attempting something is always kind of like seek failure for the sake of success. Whilst trying kind of goes avoid failure because you're not acknowledging your every time you try. Trying is a constant thing. You're always in trying mode, whilst attempting has feedback. Why are they sounding different to me? Do I actually have? Have I created? Let me just Google it. I think this is the first time I'm actually Googling trying versus attempting. So let's end it with this, man. Trying literally means causing strain, hardship, or distress, adapted to try or put to severe trial, severe, affected, difficult to endure, arduous. Holy shit. Yeah, Attempt means to try to do something, especially something difficult, is often implies making an effort to accomplish a goal, which may or may not be successful. So, so there is, I figured that much that there's going to be a try in attempting, but attempt means to try to do something, while trying on its own literally means causing strain, hardship, and distress. So effectively, when we're approaching something to do it, if we say we're trying to do it, then effectively what we're doing is we're just kind of like absorbing stress, causing strain, and like creating hardships, which kind of like synchronizes with my thought process of trying versus attempting. So when I'm trying to convince you, effectively, I'm causing hardship on me and on you, while simultaneously kind of like trying to accomplish something that's, let's just face it, man. To convince somebody with something, it's a hard thing to do, and ultimately it's a shallow approach, whilst attempting an explanation allows the other people to relate to something, which means they eventually fall into the pattern that you're actually explaining. Psychologically, this works better. Yeah, man, why not? It's a video. Love you.